When we are bewildered, we do not distinguish what is religious and what is not religious. At that time, there is need of Guru. That is the Vedic instruction. Tad vijnanatham sa gurumeva vigache. Material world means in every stage there is danger. So, therefore we should take guide from Guru, from the spiritual master, how to make progress. The injunction of the Vedas, that if you want real knowledge, you must go to Guru. Now there are so many Gurus. Where shall I go? You shall go to a Guru. Samitpani Sutryam Brahmanishtam. You shall go to a Guru who is Brahmanishtam, a great devotee. He is good. One who has full knowledge in Brahma. Athato Brahmati.
नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. A very warm welcome to all of you on day 25 of Srila Prabhupada LILA, Uniting Two Worlds. We saw how Srila Prabhupada set a very short deadline for finishing a huge project, 17 volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which could have taken 17 months, even after speeding up the printing process by 4 times. But Prabhupada told 17 months is too long, you have to finish in 2 months. So it was just impossible, disciples expressed. Then Prabhupada told, impossible is the word in Fool's Dictionary. So in the materialistic society, a new law, or rather a decade-old law is very famous, the law of attraction. And people tell whatever you think you will achieve that. That is not wise. You can keep on imagining, I will not die, I will not die. Let the author of these laws or the discoverers imagine that they are not dying. That will not make them immortal. Let them imagine they will never have any disease. It is not going to happen. Let them imagine they will not get old. It is not going to happen. Can any single person apply this law of attraction and tell that I will not get old and he remains perpetually, he or she remains young? That is not possible. In a similar way, just like these things we can grossly see, death, old age, disease, you cannot stop despite being very expert in applying law of attraction. Similarly, this law of attraction cannot make any change in one's life. Law of attraction is very simple. If you desire something, they tell you get it. That is fact. What you desire, you get it in this material world, but that is as per the laws of karma. If as per your karma, you can afford to have something you desire, just like a rich man's son. If a rich man's son dreams of a big car, he can have it immediately. Poor man's son, he can keep on dreaming entire life, he will not be able to get it. So it depends on who is dreaming, who is desiring. One needs to have proper karma. So those who are having anyway proper karma, they desire something, they are able to achieve it. Others who do not have in their karma, they may keep on wondering, they will not achieve it. It is as simple as that. But in spiritual life, that is fact. Because in spiritual affairs, nothing is limited by karma. Whatever one wishes, that can be achieved. Attachment to the lotus feet of the spiritual master is the perfection that fulfills all desires. Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati Je Prasade Pure Sarva Asha. All desires are fulfilled. And the perfection of all desires, how one can fulfill all the desires is how a person gets this siddhi, one who is attached to the lotus feet of one's spiritual master. So thus, on such platform of pure devotional service, everything is possible by the mercy of Krishna. And thus disciples took the words of their spiritual master. Impossible is a word in actually fool's dictionary. We do not know we are working for Krishna. Krishna can make anything possible. Krishna made such things possible during his pastimes. Krishna changed the event of time. Time was no limitation for the devotees. Krishna changed the motion of the sun and so many other things. So Krishna can do anything possible. The children of his spiritual master had died, but Krishna brought them back from the abode of Yamraj. So Krishna changed the entire thing. Nobody has brought anybody back from the abode of Yamraj, but Krishna did that. So Krishna completely changed the laws of nature for his devotees. So thus nothing is impossible for a devotee in devotional service. So we should never be let down by any of the thoughts which Maya can put, that devotional service is too tough, it is not possible, you are failing. Yes, we will fail in the beginning, but under proper guidance of devotees, we have to beg for the blessings of Krishna and spiritual master, and thus everything will come out successful. So Prabhupada told this very important point, we should always keep it in our mind. Impossible is a word in fool's dictionary in spiritual life. So the disciples, understanding this can be fulfilled, they told Prabhupada that is possible, and then they started working on a very rigorous marathon. And the painters were painting on and on. They would just chant their 16 rounds, and Rameshwar Prabhu, the supervisor of the BBT, he was arranging meals for them at their place, and he arranged everything for them, and they were just painting on and on for all the days, entire marathon they were just painting. And they would eventually fall asleep. It is not possible to do it. So when one painter would fall asleep, he would pick up the painting, take it to another painter who is still awake, and he will be told to finish the painting. In this way, very extraordinary endeavor went on. Another Mataji was typing, and she's typing on and on for 20-22 hours continuously without any sleep. So Prabhupada told she is acting on spiritual platform. On material platform, nobody can work so hard. So like this, it was extraordinary endeavor which devotees were undergoing to fulfill the wish of their spiritual master. Meanwhile, although Srila Prabhupada had said he would stay in Los Angeles to support their 2 months deadline, he soon decided to follow his original travel plans. Feeling compelled to see the welfare of his disciples around the country, he left on a tour of 13 ISKCON centers in US and Canada. Less than a month later, however, he returned to Los Angeles to see if his press workers were keeping their vow of producing 17 volumes in 2 months. Prabhupada was pleased with the sincerity of his disciples. 17 books in 2 months he had asked them to produce, and they, rather than trying to explain him why this was impossible, had taken the order so seriously that they could not conceive of rejecting or changing or modifying it. Instead of modifying the order, they had modified their lives. They had gone beyond the realm of routine work into the realm of extraordinary effort. As a result, both they and Prabhupada felt great satisfaction. As Prabhupada said, it was all an arrangement for the satisfaction of Lord Chaitanya and the previous acharyas. So rather than using intelligence to modify the order, disciples were using intelligence how to fulfill the order. So when we face challenges, time is not there, job or business doesn't allow time for chanting or Mangalarti or preaching, book distribution, then the limitation is with us in our Krishna consciousness. If we become Krishna conscious, Prabhupada explains many places, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a householder, magistrate, very responsible, but he was not just carrying out his court duties, he was working 5 times faster than other judges. So 5 times faster, how somebody can work? And then he would, not that he is exhausted, he has worked with great intensity and now he wants some rest. He would come and he would take very minimal rest, and at night he would sit down again to translate the books. And then he would send the books everywhere, and then he would conduct preaching programs, and many people he was guiding them in Krishna consciousness. So he was publishing, writing, printing, and organizing the preaching programs as well as doing his regular job. So Prabhupada told, it is not that one cannot tell I am a householder, I cannot have time for preaching. No, everything Krishna will arrange. Krishna simply needs to see how sincere we are. Whatever time we have to put sincerely. So there is no impediment for chanting, for reading, for preaching. Everything we will get time, provided we are very sincere and serious. Everything is in control of Krishna. Krishna, for his service, will make everything possible. Srila Prabhupada decided to take another US tour, visiting Laguna Beach and San Diego and then going to Dallas. From there, he would be visiting New Orleans and the nearby ISKCON farm in Mississippi. Then to Detroit, Toronto, Boston, and New York, eventually traveling to Europe and India. From Prabhupada's point of view, his touring was imperative for spreading Krishna consciousness. As he had said in his arrival address at Berkeley during his last tour, I am traveling all over the world thrice in a year. My duty is to see that my disciples who have accepted me as Guru may not fall down. That is my anxiety. So in order to, just like a doctor, he visits, sees how the patients are, all the parameters are fine, pulse is all right, blood pressure is okay. Now, in a similar fashion, Srila Prabhupada would tour all his centers across the world so that disciples may not fall down in the spiritual life. Detroit, August 2nd, 1975. Alfred Ford, the great-grandson of Henry Ford, had become attracted to Krishna consciousness through meeting some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples in Detroit and through reading Bhagavad Gita as it is. He had adopted the principles of Krishna consciousness, begun regularly chanting 16 rounds, and was now Srila Prabhupada's initiated disciple. His initiated name was Amrish. So Amrish Prabhu, still he is very active and he's the chairman of Mayapur temple, which is coming up. So he has invested great amount of his fortune, as well as he has been raising funds, traveling all across the globe. So when he was pretty young in Detroit, which is the headquarters of the Ford Motors in America, they were the richest people, Ford and Rockefeller families. That time IT revolution was not there. Automobile was the industry which revolutionized and made people very rich. So Ford and Rockefeller, just like in India we have Tatas, Birlas, we would have the names. They had Ford and Rockefeller. So the heir of one of the richest families of America, he's taking interest, and not just interest, he has taken initiation now from Prabhupada, a completely surrendered disciple, chanting 16 rounds minimum every day, and his initiated name is Amrish Das. Today Amrish was at the airport behind the wheel of a white Lincoln Continental limousine, waiting to meet Srila Prabhupada. On seeing Srila Prabhupada approach, Amrish got out of the driver's seat and offered obeisances. He opened the back door of the limousine for Srila Prabhupada, shut it, and returned to his seat just like a menial chauffeur. We devotees also have a car, Srila Prabhupada said as they drove away. But we are going to the temple and distributing books with it. So Prabhupada is explaining the principle of Yukta Vairagya. You need not leave things. You can use cars, but cars are used for going to temple, not for going to bars, restaurants, or mundane sightseeing. But car is used for visiting temple or for preaching purpose, distributing books. So car can also be used in Krishna service. So in this way, everything which is favorable can be used for Krishna service without attachment. Today Krishna has given car. This is the gift of material nature. Let us use for Krishna. Tomorrow car is not there. We can use as well bullock cart also in the service of Krishna. Anything can be used for Krishna. Here is a rich man's son, Alfred Ford. We are giving him a little spiritual teaching and he is happy. So thus, many times people tell, Prabhu, this job is Maya and I think I should leave it and have settle for a simple thing. So no, job is not Maya. Doing job for one's satisfaction is Maya. We work very hard in our jobs or businesses and offer the result of that activity, the money to Krishna, that becomes 100% spiritual activity. And that activity will bring us to spiritual elevation in Krishna consciousness. So what is Maya? Maya means I am separate from Krishna. I am this body and I work very hard for satisfaction of my mind and body. This is Maya. But if I work hard for satisfaction of Krishna, then my mind, body, spirit, everything is satisfied. This is Krishna consciousness. So this principle Prabhupada told, cars can be used, buildings can be used, money can be used, jobs can be done, businesses can be done, everything can be done, but for satisfaction of Krishna. And if we go for a simple job, which does not take much of our time, which does not put us into so much of harassment, still we will not be satisfied if that is not for service of Krishna. Rather, if a person is working very hard and offering the results of all the activities to Krishna, that is a great blessing. So then if our job is very, very demanding, there is no problem. If we start offering the results to Krishna, then that hard work becomes tapasya and we will feel spiritual ecstasy because of such hard work. Another of Srila Prabhupada's Detroit disciples was Elizabeth Ruther, now Lekha Shravanti Devi Dasi. She also got initiated. So Ford and Ruthers were another very important, prominent family of America. And she was also very rich. And both these families were not having good terms. They were actually enemies of each other. But in Krishna consciousness, both of them were living happily under a roof and serving Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada told, this is the solution. The enemies are working together, serving Krishna. Srila Prabhupada was pleased with the humility of these two disciples, and while he gave them some special status, he did not dote on the fact that they were from such famous families. Amrish and Lekha Shravanti saw themselves as humble servants of Vaishnavas. Once even Amrish Prabhu, when he asked Prabhupada, so Prabhupada, can I visit this restaurant? And he was explaining his plan. Restaurant means temple restaurant in which prasadam is served. Prabhupada denied. You might be son of or grandson of Ford, but we don't go to restaurants. So Prabhupada was not lenient. You are a disciple means you have to follow the rules and regulations. Initiated disciples, they don't go for sense gratification. So sometimes devotees, they think, oh, they have nice restaurant in their temple, 3-star restaurant or even better. So they might be enjoying everything for free. No, the fact is the devotees never go there, not allowed at all. In the ashram, whatever comes, simple food, that is there. Restaurant is there to attract the general people. They will anyway go outside and eat some things. So they can come to a restaurant and in this way honor prasadam in advance. But for devotees, the life should be very, very simple. Amrish and Lekha Shravanti saw themselves as humble servants of the Vaishnavas. On the way to the temple, Prabhupada's car passed a large modern building displaying flags of many nations and a large sign, World Headquarters Ford. One of the devotees turned to Amrish and asked, is this where you work? From the back seat, Prabhupada spoke up, no, he is the proprietor. Proprietor doesn't work. Then finally, Prabhupada found a property, very nice place, because in Detroit the existing temple was not so good and the lease period was over. And they stumbled across a very huge mansion of another very rich person of Detroit who was no more. But this temple, this place, mansion was so ornate, it was like a palace. You could park many boats. There was a huge garage for boats on one side. From that, you can go to the river directly. Prabhupada told you can have boats for preaching here. And then it was so wonderful, but very, very expensive. It was $350,000, super duper expensive. So Prabhupada went around and got very impressed. And then finally, after seeing the temple, so these two rich disciples, they sponsored it. Likashravanti Mataji, she got some inheritance, around $125,000. An entire thing she donated, such a huge amount. And she will not be having anything for herself, savings in the future. But she gave everything to Prabhupada. And the balance was given by Amrish Prabhu, Ford. And in this way, one of the most opulent temples of ISKCON was taken. But Srila Prabhupada, showing example of not having any personal attachment to these places, which were only taken to be engaged in the service of Krishna, after purchasing that property, one of the most opulent, luxurious property, Prabhupada liked it so much, Prabhupada told every room is worth the entire price what the owner is quoting. But Prabhupada never came back to that temple again. So thus all the big things that a devotee achieves, that is just for the service of Krishna. So some people tell Arjuna fought for his kingdom. Why you are telling he fought for Krishna? Yudhishthira, they all wanted kingdom. That is not fact. They all wanted to serve Krishna. And thus as soon as they got the news, Krishna has left the planet without telling anybody, Yudhishthira Maharaj left. Without even speaking to his brothers or mother or wife, he did not tell anybody, he walked out. When Pandavas saw Yudhishthira Maharaj is walking out, so all the brothers thought, what we will do? They also walked out without caring for any other responsibility and other thing. Our responsibility was Krishna's service. Krishna is no more there. What we will do here? They walked out of all the luxurious palaces and everything. So it's a misconception. They did not fight for kingdom, their own luxuries or wealth. They fought simply for the satisfaction of Krishna to establish a Krishna conscious governance. So thus Prabhupada got this huge place for the movement and never came back again to that temple. In Toronto, Srila Prabhupada's North American tour was suddenly interrupted. A telegram from Tejas in New Delhi announced that if Prabhupada wants to meet Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, he should come immediately. The telegram contained no details and his secretary was unable to reach the Delhi temple by phone. But Prabhupada didn't need to hear anything more. When an auspicious opportunity arose, he said, a devotee should act at once. So time and tide wait for none. So Krishna somehow is pleased. Krishna has made an arrangement. So sometimes we'll find such arrangements. We are living in the company of devotees and we are having chance to follow Krishna consciousness very nicely. We should take it up to fullest extent possible, because such an opportunity may not come again. So Prabhupada was understanding everything is happening here under personal control. Nothing is by chance, especially when a person follows Krishna consciousness. So whenever there is auspicious opportunity, that thing should be picked up immediately. So Prabhupada, without asking any questions, there's a chance to meet Prime Minister and many wonderful things, useful things can be done. Prabhupada immediately left for India. New Delhi, August 27, 1975. At 9:15 in the morning, Srila Prabhupada and several of his leading disciples arrived at the Prime Minister's home, where they were confronted by a formidable security check. 2 days before, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh had been assassinated, and Mrs. Gandhi was rumored to be the next. Armed soldiers therefore surrounded her residence. The guards at the outer gate decided that the foreigners could not go in. Srila Prabhupada alone could enter. While one guard opened the gate, another ushered Prabhupada into a car, which carried him to the Prime Minister's front door. In a tiny cramped handwriting, Srila Prabhupada had noted down in a small address book a list of points he wanted to discuss with Mrs. Gandhi. So the points Prabhupada noted down were: First of all, grant immigration for 500 foreigners. It was very difficult. Foreigners would come on a 6-month visa, then they have to fly back to their country, and then again they have to take visa and come back. Their services were getting disturbed. It was very expensive affair. Some of them were being treated as CIA. They were doubtful how somebody can leave a place like America and come to a poor country, India. And at that time, it was economy was just developing. So they thought there must be some hidden motive. There must be CIAs. And in Bombay temple, somebody told this huge domes they have built on temple. Actually, there are so many radars inside, and these CIA agents are sending signals. So police came and searched the entire temple for such radars. And some devotees were arrested also. They were not given extension on visas. It was difficult. So Prabhupada, first point Prabhupada wrote was grant immigration for 500 foreigners. Second, all MPs initiated Brahmanas. So all the ministers in Vedic culture, ministers would be advising the king, and all such ministers were Brahmanas. Brahmanas means Brahma Janati iti Brahmana, who has realized I am not the body. So still I am stuck in this body. So aim of life is to no more keep on accepting such miserable bodies. And with the same, they would give right direction so as to frame the state policies to the king. And king will thus execute such policies. But now ministers themselves are very fallen. So Prabhupada told this should be the condition. Anybody who wants to become minister in the government, he should be initiated disciple. Initiated Brahmana. Sanjay the king closed slaughterhouses, chanting, meat eaters at home, no public meat eating, prostitution punishable, no religious group except Bhagavad Gita as it is. All government officers must join Kirtan at least twice a day, support Krishna consciousness all over the world were the 10 points Prabhupada wrote. But when he met Indira Gandhi, he could notice that she was very disturbed and she was in anxiety that she could be executed. Prabhupada could understand, and she expressed also that actually it is not the right time for us to meet, and she was very much occupied by such thoughts. Still, Prabhupada told she had some spiritual inclination. That is why, despite all these things, she wanted to cancel the meeting. But she had promised and she had some spiritual inclination. So she met Prabhupada. But she was too much occupied for all these other things to be discussed. However, she agreed that she would help with the disciples to stay in India for a good period of time. They soon ended their talk and Srila Prabhupada left. A few days later, while still in New Delhi, Srila Prabhupada received a letter from Rameshwar. So we discussed how they are on a marathon of 2 months. The BBT in Los Angeles was miraculously fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's order to publish 17 volumes in 2 months. The composers, editors, artists, and workers had ecstatically finished their marathon on schedule. When the first books had come back from the printers and had been offered on the altar of Rukmani Dwarkadhish, the devotees had cried in transcendental bliss, chanting again and again the mantras to Srila Prabhupada. They are feeling the potency of the order of their spiritual master and seeing themselves as instruments in carrying out what had once seemed an impossible request. So this is actually very nice pastime. So I request all of you, you can read the book, distribute books, distribute books, distribute books. So that is very nice, extraordinary pastime. Here very briefly it is mentioned how devotees, when they saw the books have come up on the altar, the final copies, they started crying, and with great feelings they were singing the mantras to Srila Prabhupada, and how this entire event unfolded of book distribution. It has been mentioned very nicely. It's very small book but very, very powerful book. They were feeling the potency of the order of their spiritual master and seeing themselves as instruments in carrying out what had once seemed an impossible request. Today our composer finished the last volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita. By Wednesday next week, August 20th, all volumes will be at the printer. Now they are just starting to compose the 5th canto, and the entire canto will definitely be at the printer by Vyas Puja day. After promising delivery of books by October at the latest, the letter was signed by about 60 devotees, your unworthy servants at ISKCON Press. On their behalf, Rameshwar stated, "We have lost all desire to do anything except be engaged in producing and distributing your transcendental books by the millions in every town and village. So usually after such hard work, person wants that I want leave. Now it has been great project. We have been busy for 2 months, barely sleeping for few hours every night. Now please give us some vacation, some holiday. We want to enjoy. But this is called spiritual life. The more we engage ourselves with intensity, the more we feel enjoyment. Usually if you focus on something, then people tell they have various techniques that you work for 25 minutes with great focus and then you relax. Again, you gather your focus and then you relax. But in spiritual life, the more you focus, the more you want to focus. And eventually this focus keeps on increasing more and more, becomes more and more intense, unless it becomes a stage of constant meditation upon Krishna, and that is called samadhi. So in samadhi, like Prahlad Maharaj was completely absorbed, or all the pure devotees are always absorbed in samadhi. All the pure devotees, all the Paramahansas. They never forget Krishna even for a single moment, whatever activities they may be doing. So this is the difference between material and spiritual life. Material life is boring, it is stale. You focus on something, then you want relief. But in spiritual life, the more you focus, the more you want to focus. So only a person who cannot focus, they feel bored in spiritual life. Prabhupada mentions anybody who can hear with rapt attention, for him spiritual life will never be hackneyed. Who is simply very attentive in chanting, very attentive in hearing the lectures, very attentive in reading the books, very attentive in deity worship, very attentive in cooking, very attentive in cleaning the floor. With great attention, if somebody is doing devotional activities, spiritual life will always be new and refreshing. But those who are not attentive, it will become boring and may become more and more boring. They may eventually leave it. So attention is important. Even though mind is rebelling, no, I don't want to focus, somehow push the mind, focus. And then we will see we would like to focus all the more. So this is spiritual life. Just see, they have had a very tough time materially. But now he is telling we have lost all desire to do anything. When we work very hard in the exams, we have sleepless nights, then we have desire to do anything else but studies. The toppers of the JEE, after working very hard, they tell, now I cannot study anymore. Now let me enjoy, let me freak out now for some time. Even while preparing, they work for entire day, and on Sunday they freak out and enjoy. Again, they work for the entire week. And as soon as the exams are over, they want to enjoy. So actually, they don't want to study. Even the toppers in today's educational system, they just want to do something else after that. They are waiting, when will it get over? So thus we can see there is something spiritual life is not fiction, it is reality. So here the devotees have worked very hard and now they have lost all desire to do anything except be engaged in producing and distributing your transcendental books by the millions in every town and village. On August 21, the appearance day of Lord Balram, Rameshwar sent Srila Prabhupada a telegram. By the mercy of Lord Balram, Nityananda, the last volume of Chaitanya Charitamrita is leaving today for the printer. By your mercy and divine order, it is done. Although Srila Prabhupada travelled to Vrindavan, the devotees were able to dispatch advance copies of all 15 volumes to him by his 80th birthday on August 31st. Just after Prabhupada observed the ceremony in the temple, a devotee arrived in Vrindavan with the final 6 volumes of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. With great relish and satisfaction, Srila Prabhupada examined the books. He was pleased with the artwork and quickly became absorbed in reading the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. He felt so inspired, he remarked to the devotees in Vrindavan that he was thinking of stopping all touring and just staying in Vrindavan and translating. The reciprocation of the devotees at his conquest was so sincere that it increased Srila Prabhupada's desire to reciprocate with them. He wrote to, "My dear Rameshwar and company, you have taken seriously the publishing and also the distribution of these books, and that is the success of our mission. You have taken seriously this work, and I know that my Guru Maharaj is pleased with you because he wanted this. So by this endeavor, you will all go back home, back to Godhead." So just see, by this hard work, which if done for Maya, may give us some promotion which satisfies us only for a couple of days. Only we brace ourselves up with unlimited anxiety for next level of promotion. But here, that same hard work done for Krishna was so much pleasing to Prabhupada. Prabhupada told, by this endeavor you will go back to Godhead. And once a pure devotee says something, Krishna makes sure it is fulfilled. So just see, they got guarantee for an eternal life by this hard work. So hard work we should not shun away from. We should simply do hard work for the satisfaction of spiritual master. The same hard work causes repeated birth and death in material life, and it gives us eternal life in devotional service. In few short years, Srila Prabhupada had seen the publishing facilities of ISKCON evolve from the small, hand-operated AV-Dick printing press at his first storefront temple in New York to the sophisticated BBT operation in Los Angeles, equipped with the latest computer typesetting machines, and starred with devoted, hard-working crew of managers, editors, proofreaders, artists, photographers, designers, layout artists, and photo technicians. Whereas in India, before he had gone to the West, Srila Prabhupada had struggled alone for months to organize the printing of a single volume of his Srimad Bhagavatam translations. He now saw his loving disciples rushing his manuscripts into print as fast as he could produce them. Moreover, they were simultaneously translating them into a variety of languages all over the world. Then eventually Prabhupada unfolded many plans. Now book distribution was in place, temples were coming up. Then Prabhupada started another very important project, the Gurukul project in Vrindavan. The Vedic culture got completely destroyed because the Britishers understood these people, if they go to Gurukul, they will never be working for us. Because Gurukul teaches a person to become independent, and our jobs are making us independent, making us do something which we do not like at all. And Vedic culture, those people who are the scholars, they are called Brahmanas. They would never take up a job. Kshatriyas will do administration, collect taxes, give protection, not do a job. Farmers will just take care of their fields, cultivate the field for 3 months in a year, and balance 9 months they are free to engage completely in Krishna consciousness. So they are not dependent on anybody. They have their field, they have their animals, and then they are happy, advancing in Krishna consciousness. But these Britishers thought, we are just a handful. Now how we will run this country? We need people to work for us. They wanted industrialization. And as long as this Gurukul culture is there, which tells the only purpose of human life is to have simple living, high thinking, so that you can save time for spiritual affairs. And every segment of life is called ashrama. It is only for spiritual advancement. Person goes to school for spiritual advancement, marries for spiritual advancement, then goes to jungle, pilgrimage for spiritual advancement, and takes renunciation, sannyas for spiritual advancement. So these people, for job is a very, very abominable affair. It is conditioned. 12 hours you have to follow somebody else's order, or at least 8 hours a day. Now it is 12 hours or even more. So what is this? I want freedom, but I am getting more and more entangled, servant of somebody. So nobody would take up jobs. So they abolished this. So they told, if we have to rule this country, we have to break this spine, their culture and education. And thus they removed this Gurukul education system. And now we are all products of this Macaulay education system, clerical system, which produces clerks. People have no sense how to become independent. They are but dependent. Prabhupada told, education is making people dogs. Dog, if he has got no master, life is very miserable. He always remains hungry. Other dogs are attacking somebody, pelting stones on them. And a very horrible life dog has got. And they die also very, very miserably. And sometimes dog is so hungry, dog is forced to eat its own stool. This is the arrangement by Krishna. So very condemned living entities are given the body of dog. Although other species are able to get their food, dog always remains hungry, unless dog has got a master. So this education system has made such a slave of our minds that we cannot have independent existence. We have to become servant of other people. And in Gurukul, nobody would serve anybody. Only the Shudras who were not having proper qualifications, they only were doing jobs and serving other people. Rest everybody was independent. So Prabhupada wanted to re-establish this Gurukul system so that at least Brahmanas can be produced who can lead the society back to the path of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada established a Gurukul in Vrindavan in 1975 with an aim to have up to 500 students, the children of all the ISKCON devotees, so that again this wonderful culture can be reinstated. Then Prabhupada was having another world tour. Prabhupada went to Mauritius, and the Prime Minister was very, very grateful to Prabhupada. As a token of friendship, he sent very nice reception, chauffeur-driven car to receive Prabhupada. But something unpleasant happened. It's a long past time. And Prabhupada was sitting on the right side, and he was told to shift on the other side. The disciple told Prabhupada, this is safer side. And then again, they went out for a small stroll. Again, Prabhupada came back, and the disciple opened another door. Prabhupada told, no, he has told me, driver has told me to sit on the other side. So Prabhupada sat on the other side. And just when the car was taking a curve, they saw another car heading straight towards them. And the driver took left to avoid the collision. Unfortunately, the other car also took the same curve, and it was a head-on collision. And both the cars were completely destroyed. But just before this was about to happen, just before the car was about to take the curve, Brahmanand Prabhu, who was traveling with Prabhupada, he saw that Prabhupada has sat firmly, cross-legged, and he has firmly planted his cane against the car floor or the front seat, and he prepared himself very firmly. So he could not, he was just thinking, why Prabhupada is sitting like this? And then this collision happened immediately. So then later Prabhupada told, so they got very badly hit, and all the parties were bleeding. The man and woman in the other car, they were taken to hospital. The devotees also were bleeding. The devotees were sitting in the front. Their heads, they struck the glass windshield, and blood covered their faces. The driver was badly hurt, but Prabhupada was least hurt. Prabhupada had some bruises on the chin, in the arm, and his leg was bleeding. So Prabhupada told, Krishna told me at the right time, and thus I prepared myself. So Prabhupada told, this Krishna's special mercy, special protection. So seeing the severity of the accident, this is nothing what we have faced. So then Prabhupada told, this is the nature of the material world. Asannapi kleshada ashadeha. Everything was nice. The weather was very pleasant. We were enjoying the nice scenes. And suddenly you see there is accident. This is material life. Everything is happening so nicely, and suddenly calamity happens. So only less intelligent people, they plan happiness here, where at any step there can be calamity. So thus Prabhupada was always speaking Bhagavatam at every opportunity available. Then Prabhupada came back to Bombay. In Bombay, the temple which came up, we saw in the last chapter. And the disciples were very naive, and things were getting stolen. So Prabhupada was in great anxiety. He came back to Bombay, he put the things in place, and then he handed over the project to a professional company. Prabhupada envisioned that book distribution could not only finance Bombay construction, but could also support his even more ambitious plans for Mayapur. He approved a plan whereby all the various BBTs would contribute a minimum of 10% of their yearly income toward the construction of ISKCON's international projects in India, especially the planned Mayapur city, with its towering temple of understanding. Such a cooperation, so Prabhupada called Mayapur temple, Temple of Understanding, which is called today as Temple of Vedic Planetarium. Such cooperation among the BBTs in different countries would help keep the growing Krishna consciousness movement unified. America has the money, Prabhupada writes, so this cooperation between the blind men and lame men, it will make good relations between India and America. The next chance I have for meeting with Indira Gandhi, I shall inform her about how much foreign exchange we are sending. After receiving your encouraging assurance that as book distribution increases, the amount BBT sends will also increase, we are now going to attempt a Kurukshetra project and the Jagannath Puri project. For the time being, we are spending in India, and eventually we will spend everywhere. This will greatly enhance America's spiritual position. So it is wrong that this movement, as people tell, is taking money to America. Rather, all the money from America, from book distribution across the world, was coming to India. It's the other way around. So you can explain how all these projects have come up. Indians were very poor. You cannot make any money by sending or selling books here. In America, people earn nicely and they give nicely, and in other places. So they were all giving money for the books, and any person would give easily $10 for a book which may cost around $2, $3, $4. And thus the finances of the movement became very strong. And all that money, where it was coming? It was coming to India, huge foreign exchange. So it is the other way around. Indian money is not going outside. The foreign money came so much to India, and even now it is coming. Now in the Mayapur project, 400 crores have been given by Amrish Prabhu personally, and he has raised equal or even much more amount by traveling across the world. So hundreds of crores are coming to India, not that it is going out. Jan, the temple which is there, that also has been sponsored by Amrish Prabhu, and he has made many such temples. Detroit temple was purchased at that time, then recently Ujjain temple, then Mayapur temple, and so many other places. So thus you can run a very big company, and you can be perfectly Krishna conscious by utilizing all that wealth, not for making your own house, but for making Krishna's house. So everything can be completely spiritualized by engaging it in the service of Krishna. Actually, so this was Prabhupada's dream, uniting the world. So India is poor and America is rich. So America, although it is rich, strong man, but blind, no guidance. What are they supposed to do with this wealth, with this strength? And India, although they have knowledge, but there is no strength, how they can execute things. So the world should unite, East and the West, the wisdom of the East and the resources of the West. With this, the entire world can be delivered from the sufferings. Actually, the word translating is incomplete in describing Srila Prabhupada's writing. Translating involved only the verses and synonyms, but Prabhupada's deepest meditations, what is referred to as his personal ecstasies, were his Bhakti Vedanta purports. Composing the purports as well as translating the verses came best when he could think about them throughout the day, not just when he turned on his dictating machine at 1 a.m. He was translating the extremely grave and complex Vedic knowledge into a modern context, thus making it understandable to Western readers, and it was a great demanding task. He had been in Honolulu for about a week when he announced one morning walking along Waikiki Beach that he expected to finish that night the last purport to 7th canto. When Hari Shauri expressed his happiness to hear this, Prabhupada replied, "Oh, I can finish very quickly, but I have to present it for your understanding. It requires deep thought very carefully to present it for the common man." So Prabhupada told, I can finish all these books very easily. Writing is not a tough task, but how to make a person who is very dull, who has no knowledge of the Vedas, has no faith in the Vedas, how to make them understand this very elevated Vedic thoughts. Actually, entire Bhagavatam, what is explained in 18,000 verses with detailed purports and explanations spanning up to 3-4 pages at times. It was spoken only in 4 verses to Lord Brahma, just 4 verses. Ham eva sam eva agre, very simple. And then Lord Brahma further explained to Narad Muni and he told to expand it further. In this way, Bhagavatam got expanded. Brahma, being so intelligent, trillions of times more intelligent than us, could understand just in 4 verses. But ordinary people need more explanation. Thus, Bhagavatam expanded. And now just verses are not enough. Elaborate explanation of every verse is also required. Thus, Prabhupada had to write the purports of all these things. So sometimes entire night Prabhupada would have written just one line, because very carefully he has to think how this very esoteric and elevated meaning can be explained simply to a common man without diluting the original intent. So this was a great task. So thus every word is very, very important, and Prabhupada told every word we should read very carefully, because a lot of thought has gone into it, how it can be explained in the context, in our context, to a common man. Prabhupada said he was making the Bhagavatam understandable for the common man. This did not mean his writings were lacking in substance. They were pure substance. But in the essential spirit of Bhagavatam itself, Prabhupada was omitting anything extraneous and distracting, selecting from the commentaries of previous acharyas whatever would best impel his readers to pure devotional service. So thus Prabhupada was absorbed entire day in contemplating how to present this in a very nice, conducive way. And Prabhupada told, this is the way to preach. So for preaching, you have to contemplate upon the subject matter, write it down, and by writing only you will be able to preach. So anybody who wishes to preach Krishna consciousness must write it down, must assimilate the thoughts, present it in a systematic manner. Only then we will be able to preach it to others. Prabhupada's making Bhagavatam's message available therefore did not mean mere simplification. It meant urgently addressing the reader to give up the world of illusion and take to the eternal liberation of Krishna consciousness. Modern society, however, was so degraded that a preacher could no longer appeal to the authority of Vedic scripture. No one would accept it. Srila Prabhupada's writing therefore dealt with such theories as origin of life by chance, Darwinian evolution, and chemical evolution, and he defeated them all with strong logic establishing that life comes from life, not from dead matter. So actually Vedas do not need such elaborate explanation because it is a fact, user manual coming from God, but people have lost faith. So thus great logics have to be incorporated to defeat the other atheistic theories. God is not created, by chance life and living entities have come up. Prabhupada wanted to visit his Los Angeles center, now a large thriving community of devotees. He would see their new temple room with its marble arches and gallery of gorgeous transcendental paintings and observe the opulent worship of deities Rukmani Dwarkadhish. He would see the latest technological applications of Krishna consciousness at Golden Avatar Recording Studios and at the Fate Museum, which utilize multimedia dioramas to depict the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. He would sit in his garden and hear Krishna book and walk on the Venice beach discussing scientific theories with Dr. Swarup Damodar. And of course, he would increase the already swelling waves of book distribution. One day in the car, he had said, "My books will be the law books of human society for the next 10,000 years." So this movement is going to continue for 10,000 years. After that, everything will be finished. There would be no spiritual life for the masses. Few devotees here and there, they will go away to the mountains. They would be practicing. For the masses, then the Kali Yuga effect will increase. And for these 10,000 years, the golden period will usher in. And Srila Prabhupada told, my books are going to be law books for next 10,000 years. Finally, New York City, 1976. So it has been 11 years since Srila Prabhupada set sails for New York from India. And now Prabhupada, conquering entire world with Krishna consciousness, he has come back. Jayananda was driving the car. Tamal Krishna Goswami and Rameshwar Swami were also there. They had picked up Srila Prabhupada and Hari Shauri at La Guardia Airport. And as they proceeded toward Manhattan, Prabhupada asked, I think it is airport is mentioned here, or maybe it could be in the local, appears like French language. Prabhupada asked, things are going on here nicely? Tamal Krishna replied that everything had really just begun. The devotees were still moving into their 12-story building in Manhattan. So they got 12-story building in the most expensive place in New York, Manhattan, and were making the final arrangements for Rath Yatra. You will see that all of the work is just in progress, he said. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, manage nicely. Krishna is giving us everything, there is no scarcity. If we simply sincerely work, Krishna will give us intelligence, everything. By his mercy, everything is available. That is Krishna, he can give you anything. So Prabhupada told, just sincerity is required. If sincerity is there, Krishna will give you anything and everything. As their car approached the colossal Brooklyn Bridge, Srila Prabhupada inquired, that is Brooklyn Bridge, I think. Now these are very sweet memories. Sometimes I was coming here and sitting down near the bridge. Near the water? Asked Tamal Krishna. They were fascinated to hear of Srila Prabhupada's early activities alone in New York. So for 1 year, Prabhupada was alone there. And they all came later. So they are, oh Prabhupada, you are sitting here near the beach? Yes, that river, said Prabhupada, near the water. Because I was on that Bowery Street, it is not very far away. So I was coming, walking there, and sitting under that bridge and thinking, when I shall return to India, he laughed. He asked about other places, almost like inquiring about old friends, the Fulton Street subway station and Chambers Street. Tamal Krishna told Prabhupada that the ISKCON center was not far from the Empire State Building and he would be able to get a nice view of it from his room on the 11th floor. Our building, Tamal Krishna said, is right in the midst of a theater, restaurant, and entertainment section of the city. In New York, Srila Prabhupada said, I feel a little at home because first I came here. I was loitering on the street here and there from 1965 September to July 1967. Continually, I stayed in New York. Tamal Krishna Maharaj gave a class this morning, said Rameshwar Swami. He was explaining that we cannot understand the good fortune of the city that you have come here. Yes, when I decided that I shall go to a foreign country, said Prabhupada, I never thought of going to London. I thought of coming here. Generally, they go to London, but I thought, no, I shall go to New York. Very progressive, Tamal Krishna commented. I do not know, Prabhupada laughed. It is Krishna's dictation. I could have gone, London was nearer. But I thought, no, I shall go to New York. Sometimes I was even dreaming that I had gone to New York. So all these dreams which a person may harbor for material progress, in a similar fashion, person can dream of preaching. So Prabhupada was dreaming, he was always focused on visiting New York and spreading Krishna consciousness. So all these things are very good for spiritual life. As they passed through various neighborhoods, Srila Prabhupada recalled the old days. He mentioned Dr. Mishra's yoga studio and his room at 172nd Street, where his tape recorder and typewriter had been stolen, the West End superette, where he would buy fruit. Sometimes I think I was coming to this part, said Prabhupada, looking out of the window aimlessly. Yes, sometimes walking on the 2nd Avenue. As they drove down 55th Street, the devotees pointed out to Prabhupada the ISKCON building with the words Hare Krishna written in gold letters down the side. A large yellow banner showing a devotee of Lord Chaitanya performing Sankirtan flew from the front of the building and stylish awning emblazoned Hare Krishna Center, extending onto the sidewalk. At the sight of Prabhupada's car, hundreds of devotees at the entrance began to cheer and chant his name. So where there was nobody 10 years ago, he alone was going here and there, asking at the immigration department to extend the visa, and he was always asking when is the next ship going back. He was doubtful whether people will understand or not, but now he had hundreds of disciples in the same place, having a skyscraper building in the costliest city, costliest place of the world. It was the largest gathering of ISKCON devotees since the Mayapur festival. Many had come from distant places to be with Srila Prabhupada, and more than 600 devotees were staying in the building. Just imagine, in one building that was so huge, 600 devotees were staying in that building. The kirtan was tumultuous. Standing before the deities of Radha Govinda, Prabhupada appeared pleased. A picture of Lord Jagannath, Balram and Subhadra was on the third altar, and Prabhupada said he was anxious to see them on the Rath Yatra day. As Prabhupada sat on the large green Vyasasan, he was at first too moved with emotion to speak. First of all, I must thank you all for bringing me in the new temple, he began. Because when I first came, my ambition was to start a temple here in New York, and I was seeking the opportunity. He described some of his first almost helpless attempts to buy a 25 by 100 foot space in Manhattan, but he had been unable to get any money. I had no place, he said. What to speak of a temple? I had no residential place even. So in that condition, I was thinking of returning to India. Practically every week I was going to the shipping company. So it's a long history that I came here with determination to start a temple in New York first. But at that time, 10 years before, in 1965, it was not possible. But by the grace of Krishna and by the grace of my Guru Maharaj, you have got this place. So I must thank you very much for organizing this temple. During Prabhupada's 10-day stay in New York, the devotees remained in a triumphant, euphoric mood. For the Rath Yatra, the devotees had permission from the city to have a parade down 5th Avenue. Prabhupada had said that New York was the most important city in the world and that a skyscraper would be a beacon of Krishna consciousness for the world. So now ISKCON had its skyscraper in Manhattan, its Rath Yatra parade down 5th Avenue, and Prabhupada's personal presence. It was gorgeous. appropriate climax to Prabhupada's 10 years of preaching in New York City. When he had first come, he had no money, no place of his own to live, and no place for people to congregate and hear about Krishna. Now he was riding in splendor down Fifth Avenue at the Rath Yatra festival, and his Radha Govinda deities had a skyscraper. In 1965, he had been alone on the street, but now he was accompanied by 600 disciples, loudly singing the holy names and benefiting millions of conditioned souls. In the evening, the parade and festival received good coverage on all major TV stations, and the next morning, pictures and articles appeared in the newspapers. Prabhupada particularly liked the New York Daily News center spread, where several photos bore a large caption, Fifth Avenue, where East meets West. Send this cutting to many places, Prabhupada said. Send it to Indira Gandhi. This title is very nice. This is the point. East meets West. As I always say, the lame man meets the blind man. Together they do wonderful, and apart they cannot do anything. He is lame and he is blind. But if they join together, Indian culture and American money, they will save the whole world. Srila Prabhupada's health was worsening. As often happened when he travelled extensively, Prabhupada in New York, his health began to suffer. His itinerary was to continue to London, Paris, Tehran, Bombay, and then to Hyderabad, where he would conduct the opening ceremony of new ISKCON temple. Senior devotees entreated him to rest a while before going to England and India. He had spent a very pleasant day at the ISKCON farm in Pennsylvania, and the devotees suggested he go there for 2 or 3 months to rest, recover his health and write. His health was worsening. He was feeling very, very weak. Every day they would beg him to please stay at least 2-3 months, please rest for some time, Prabhupada, please don't travel. When he heard that GBC members in New York had unanimously recommended he not immediately travel, he said, all right, I will not travel. But he could not be bound by the GBC, however, only by Krishna. He had already had his plane tickets and he remained set on traveling. On the morning of Prabhupada's departure, a few devotees came to his room to make a last attempt, begging him not to travel. He said nothing, though he was obviously set on leaving. His servants were packing his bags and everything was ready to go. Nevertheless, even as he left his room and got on the elevator, a few men followed, still suggesting he not go. Prabhupada, please reconsider, said Rameshwar Swami. Srila Prabhupada had remained jolly so far. Despite his physical weakness and despite his disciples pleading, but now his face changed. Don't travel, one devotee said, and another added, just stay, sit down and rest. Prabhupada turned, his eyes were very deep. More than ever, he seemed not of this material world. He said, I want the benediction to go on fighting for Krishna up to the last breath, just like Arjuna. Everyone remained silent, and the important instruction burned into their memories. The elevator opened on the main floor, and hundreds of waiting devotees chanted and cheered as Srila Prabhupada walked to his car. So thus we can see Prabhupada's mood. He had a very dangerous, almost fatal car accident, and then his health was also worsening. And when disciples pleaded him, do not go, Prabhupada expressed his real mood. The real mood of devotees, he may be very old, he may be very weak. There are, when Prabhupada was in Mayapur, one of his god brothers organized a program and he requested Prabhupada to speak. Prabhupada was very ill at that time also. And disciples told, please do not go. Prabhupada told, no, I have to go. It's a war. Preaching is a war. So they are expecting me, I have to go. And Prabhupada went there. Prabhupada was so weak and the disciples were expecting anytime anything can happen. They were just following Prabhupada very closely. So Prabhupada had to climb few stairs to raise onto the stage and then eventually occupy Vyasasana and give lecture. Prabhupada somehow with his cane managed to climb one step, but on second step Prabhupada collapsed. But the disciples were standing behind and they held him. So just imagine, a person is so weak he cannot climb 2 steps, but he has gone for preaching. This was Prabhupada's spirit. And Prabhupada eventually went on. Prabhupada did not take rest. He has collapsed, fallen down, but Prabhupada continued. He went on to stage and gave a long lecture. Like this, there are many instances in Vrindavan when Prabhupada had fallen very sick. Why he had fallen sick? Because he told, some of my disciples are not following rules and regulations nicely, so I have to take their karma. So Prabhupada became very weak, and Prabhupada even expressed, my father died in a similar fashion. He left eating and he passed away. The disciples got worried, Prabhupada may leave his body. So everybody, entire night, they were doing kirtan, doing Narsimha prayers. And Prabhupada was hardly able to speak, even move. Disciples were carrying Prabhupada, it was difficult. But then Prabhupada got to know the governor is coming to the temple. And then Prabhupada told to make arrangements. He wants to be there to receive the governor. He wanted to have some important permissions for his projects. The disciples told Prabhupada, how is it possible? You are not able to turn your side on the bed. Prabhupada told, no, I will go. You make the arrangements. And they made the arrangements, and Prabhupada, he was so sick. Prabhupada just somehow, his disciples changed his clothes and he put on a tilak. And after some time, he asked his disciple, have I put on tilak? He could not even consciously do it. But when the governor came, Prabhupada was there standing to receive. And he talked with the governor, he shook hands, and governor spoke for 20 minutes. Then Prabhupada stood and again spoke. And then Prabhupada ate with the governor, and the disciples were just amazed how Prabhupada is acting in such a weak state. And then as soon as governor went, Prabhupada slumped back again in his bed. And of course, after some time, Prabhupada recovered. So Prabhupada showed the spirit. So this is the spirit of a devotee. He does not want to retire at all. He is not at all waiting, I will enjoy one day, let me work hard now. But the mood of devotee, sincere disciple is, keep on working very hard in fulfilling the instructions of your spiritual master. And Prabhupada, what blessings he wanted? He wanted the blessing that I should fight till my last breath, just like Arjuna had this benediction. So thus we can understand what is the mood of a devotee. Till his last breath, he wants to keep on working very hard and use every bit of his energy in the service of Krishna. So now we are done with this section, and now we will enter the final instructions given by Prabhupada, which are very, very important. After all these pastimes, what is that he wanted to impress in the hearts of his disciples? So please do not miss the final sessions, as we are going to end Prabhupada Lila series, Understanding the Final Order. Thank you so much for hearing, but please do not go. We have a very special video for all of you. We have the trailer of the Empowered Acharya short film we have made to offer it as a tribute on Srila Prabhupada's upcoming Vyas Puja Day. So please watch this video and then we will conclude the session.
I was not very much hopeful.
It was very difficult. Srila Prabhupada faced so many challenges.
I was alone, without any friend, without any means, practically just like a vagabond.
It was hopeless. He decides to go back to India and goes to the shipping company for a return ticket.
But my Guru Maharaj, he wanted this. You can fight, then chant Hare Krishna. They knew other Krishna in his many forms. Yeah.
So I request all of you, please share this trailer so that people, devotees become very, very eager to see this short film on Prabhupada. And also as we always do, please try to, or sometimes we do not do, please try to write your realizations in the comments. That will be very helpful to all those who watch the video and will increase the spread of the video also by the YouTube algorithm. Also, please try to share it and try to like it as well. We'll meet tomorrow again, starting the final instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for being with us today. Hare Krishna.